So, welcome to the session. Okay, I'm Christoph, and this session is going to be about microservices. The use case we have is the citizen portal with very many services distributed, so that's why that's the use case, but like the topic is microservices. My goal is to show you technical decisions that we made, in order to maybe guide you if you have similar use cases that you want to tackle, and so I've prepared a presentation around this, and this presentation is for you. So you're very welcome to interrupt me at any point in time, if it's unclear what I'm saying, or maybe you just want to like dive in a little bit deeper or so. Let's make this a bit interactive. I think that's more fun, and so that you also get the most out of it. So I work for 1x Internet. I'm actually one of the founders, and we are focused on Drupal and React development, as well as digital strategy, online marketing, and hosting, so full package. We are an international team with 25 people, and we have an office in Frankfurt. That's our headquarters, and we have since late last year an office in Spain, in Conil. Here's some imagery from us. So that was actually from a team event. So you see the vendor there, and taking place in Spain. This was like one of the guys in our team got a big fat Drupal tattoo on his arm, so like for sympathy, we just also put something on our arm. These guys are also here in the event, these guys too, and that's when like Drupal Europe first t-shirts were shipped. So yeah, so that we tried on as well. Okay, before we start dive into the topic, let's show the sponsors. So we have diamond sponsors and platinum sponsors and gold sponsors. To the agenda. So what this is about is the city of Reykjavik. So we as a company, we have lots of business in Iceland because one of the co-founders, which is Patti, is also my wife. You've seen her running around here, the blonde girl. Beautiful blonde girl. So she's from Iceland, and therefore we have like lots of business there. And so for the city of Reykjavik, we're supposed to build a microservices portal, and we're just going to look at why we chose a microservices architecture for the citizen portal. Then we're going to take a look at the solution. I have some videos prepared. We actually see how this was built, and we're going to do some live demo. And then we're going to show some of the technology. I'm going to show some of the technology we've built in and take a look at the roadmap. Okay, first about the city of Reykjavik. So Iceland itself has 300,000 inhabitants. More than 200,000 live in Reykjavik. So it's a medium-sized city, or a small city actually. Like they consider themselves a big city. And what's like, well, but they have it all. They have all the services that every major city has. And these services need to be combined into accessible portals over the web. And what they are facing is the challenge to combine more than 100 of these services into one single portal. Right? So the services that they need to integrate range from very simple services. That would be something like apply for a dog. In Iceland, you have to register the dog. You have to get some consent from other people that you're actually a nice person that can have a dog, right? Or like renew your driver's license. But also, what is digital in Iceland is something like admissions of children to school. So depending on how old your children are, you can register them for kindergarten or school, And if you register them for school, then you can also register them for daycare activities and after-school activities and all these things, and that's all taking place online. Naturally, that is divided into different departments of the city, right? Because school department is not the same as the car department, so they're different people, different budgets, different speed, different willingness to actually do a project, and then you also have, naturally, a very heterogeneous landscape of systems. There are like some that actually have already web APIs, and others that are actually just PDFs that you can download and fill out. Right? So everything is just there. So that is actually the perfect thing when you can use a microservices architecture. So briefly, what are microservices? Microservices are separately deployable software units. Right? So if you take your application into several pieces, and they can all be developed separately and can be deployed separately. Right? Somewhere they come together, so you have a presentation layer where then these software is then presented, right? Usually that is distributed, right? You can have that all together, but you can also might as well distribute it. So that can just take place on, different servers anywhere, and they just communicate and make this. If you want to see this as a graphic, that is just what something like this would look like. So you have like lots of client requests coming in, you know, like all speaking to the same interface layer. So you just have like a, yes? Okay, sorry, yeah. So I like to walk around, sorry. Yeah, so you see here, like in this user interface layer, that's like where the citizens interact, you know, so they go to the same place. Everything gets displayed through this layer, right? And behind this sit service components, the microservices, right? So service components you see here, so this graphic's not by me, I took some graphic like from O'Reilly that actually describes this quite well. And it also indicates that like the service components, they can have different complexity. So some of those, you know, like trigger really complicated stuff when data is sent to them. Others just, you know, perform simple tasks as maybe sending an email with a dog registration form to some person, right? So that just makes sense in this kind of scenario. And this is a graphic from the offer we actually made for the city of Reykjavik, what we presented for them as a solution. So you see exactly the same thing here. So you have the user interface layer there on top and the client requests coming in. So our display layer has some more logic. If I take it from the right side, you know, like you have centralized authentication in Iceland. So there's like a centralized service where all Icelanders log in with their social security number and a password, get authenticated, and then redirected to some service. Then there is like a registration database with citizen information. So all information about people in Iceland is stored in one central database, which you can actually quite easily have access to. So like data protection is not so strict there. So that's so you can load user data. That would, for example, be important to figure out like what's the spouse of the person, who are the children, what's the address, you know, and well, then it has mechanisms for like storing that data, you know, so we put that into actually, it's Drupal as you can see. So we put that into user profiles, you know, we keep that data and just refresh it. And then it has the logic for actually talking to the web services. So the web service you see there below, so the ones that they actually already have that are like, that have web APIs are the ones that say Vala, Mentor, Namsfus. And these ones, but they have different APIs. So it says there REST and SOAP and FTP and stuff. That's not true for the services, but that's just to indicate that they're different, right? So, and what we offer to them is just to build like also in the middle where you see the service components, that's actually adapters so that the web services portal can speak with these web services. So we don't have to build them all. You know, the service component might as well be built directly by Vala or Mentor or Namsfus if they can. If not, you know, we would also build like an adapter that speaks to the SOAP or FTP or whatever interface they have, transforms it so it can actually be integrated into the My Pages portal, which is built with a microservice architecture. Yeah? So what this allows is to actually develop in a flow like this. So that's traditional project, you know, like you have some requirement analysis, and then development starts, right? So we built the My Pages portal. But after that, you can, I'm switching back and forth, you can plug in these services simultaneously, right? So you can like develop the service for Vala and Mentor Namsuf at the same time. That's where the beauty of microservice comes in. It solves the problem of having heterogeneous landscapes, and it solves the problem of like developing at the same time and having high speed in development. So that allows for something like this, and you can repeat it. Okay? So, let's look in where we stand. So at the moment, we have a first version of My Pages with a fully functional microservice architecture and a protocol that you can actually speak with microservices, which I'm going to show now in detail. And on top of that, we built for them a application builder application, a Drupal system that allows them to just create services very easily, you know, with the Drupal system, right? For example, like the registration of a dog, which is just the most simple use case that you can actually have, because you fill in a couple of data about your dog, you know, that gets collected somewhere and then processed. However, and so in order for them, that is being a paper pencil process at the moment, or like actually a website where you download a PDF and then like print it and scan it and do whatever, right? To give them a tool to the hand so that they can take most of these services and just generate their services. That's what I'm going to show. And then the first external citizen service provider is at the moment implementing the interface that we've built. So we're actually currently really doing this, right? So like one of these guys is starting to implement now because we've now like verified that the protocol that we're using for exchanging messages, that will stay like it is, and the implementation can start. So we're already parallelizing development. Okay, let's take a look. So first I'm going to show you the My Pages portal. So when I say My Pages, that is the portal for the citizens, right? That's where the citizen goes to like do stuff. I've recorded this here. So that is what this looks like. So you're looking at a demo, like testing environment, right? So that's like the login screen. So what you see here, Iceland or icekey.is, that's what it's called. You know, that's where citizens log in. You see I'm logging in here with the social security number of Patti, you know, and a password. So now I'm being redirected with the data of that particular person, redirect back to the service, right? So now I'm logged in. So now data's already been fetched from the national registry to enrich this data with personal information. Okay, so now I'm going to open here and just fill out a dog application. So that is what this looks like. So like here's like the services are categorized, you know, so there are different services. So now I'm there. Now I'm actually being displayed a web form with data that I've previously fetched from another service, right? So I now can fill in this information. So on the first screen you also already saw the data was pre-filled because it's pre-filled with the person that's actually applying, right? So you can't, for certain fields, you know, like your social security number you can't change and needs to be transmitted in the submission. And yeah, what you see here is a form API of Drupal 8 rendering the data. And you see here client-based, JavaScript-based, multi-step form process. And what you see here is now also error handling. So actually the web service also transports information about like validity of data input in order so that you can have server-side form-based validation on the services layer. And then when you're done, you get an overview page, you know, can check your data, and you can actually now like the service, like the service actually answered that he wants to have like these fields too. So we also support like that you have like validation on the service themselves, not only validation like on the portal, on the My Pages portal. And yeah. What happened? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that at all. So okay. Oh, cool. Awesome. Sorry. Okay, but we're done. So that was like what this looks like on the side of the for the citizen. So now we're looking at the hang on. So now we're going to look at the application builder. I'm now going to. Oh yeah, please. Yes, please. I think so. Like that will actually come in the next slides. I will show exactly how the information. So it's good. No, please ask questions because there's like a lot of stuff going on. So it's good to ask the questions. But that will come because I will explain like how the data is received and how we display it. Okay. So now what I'm going to show is the application builder. You know, that's the counterpart. That's the one on the graphic, like a bit more up, sitting on the bottom. That's actually generating the data that's being sent to the portal, right? For having that being displayed in, for example, multi-step form. So that's what this here is. So that's a separate Drupal instance. You know, it's just not supposed to be beautiful. It's just for the employees of the city to just like take their PDF-based process and just stick them in there. So we've chosen to build it with content types. You know, there are other ways possible too, but we wanted to work with Drupal core entities, so we want to use content types. And so And when you get a submission on a content type, that is just like a page that's just coming in, if you want to call it that, right? So the one you actually see here, that is the one we just submitted in the video before. So that's here has this data in that we just put in, right? So we've fetched some data or elicited some data like on the My Pages portal, after submission has gone to the microservice, and here it is, right? So let's take a look. So here are all the services that are defined. You see there the dog application and some other stuff for testing. We'll play around with that later. And so here's also the dog application service, as said, built with content types. So that's the one. So when you see, like all these fields we just saw on the form, on the My Pages portal, are just standard fields that we've just put in here in the application builder content type. The configuration for the fields we actually put into the form display. We found there's a neat solution to this, like implement this there. And here you see the two multi-steps, right? So here was the first step, second step. Actually, has a mistake. So the first two fields should have been in the first step. So I've already changed it. We'll see this when we do live demo, right? And here you have the fields organized. That's what just generates the steps. And then you have per field like a lot of additional settings that you can actually put in. Mouse move. Almost, yes, good field, take this one. Open it up, you can open up, yes. Okay, so you can have like placeholder text, you can have a pattern for validation, you can have minimum length, you can disable a field, right? So if you have something that's just pre-filled, you want to disable it. You can also pre-fill the field from some data that actually was fetched by either the login service or that was fetched from the National Registry. And you can make this field be shown dependently on other fields. That would be for something like this, if you are vegetarian or something like this, or you come with more people, or you need like special assistance or whatever, that would just be used in all the other fields for dynamically showing or hiding fields. Yeah, so that's actually it for this one. Is there any more coming? Yeah, so I think like I recorded nothing more here for this one. Okay, so and for integrate, so this was this one here, the application builder. So if you now want to integrate this, so like what I've shown now, like first video was like what happens on if you're a citizen. Second video was I now was an employee of the city. I've just made a new service, made all the fields, made all the configurations, made my tabs, made my conditionals and stuff. And now the service is ready, it's exposed, there's a checkbox that says expose as web service, then it makes the magic. And now I go to the portal and I just register this new service. This is what this video does here. So therefore, I'm now not logging in as user, as a citizen, right? Now I'm just going to standard, Drupal login as manager, person with a role that I can actually add new services. And that is up there under management. There are the services. You see there's a hell of a lot of services registered already. And the dog service is like top one. If you edit this, you see like here, okay, if you view it, that's the URL where the web service resides, right? So now this is the configuration of the service, right? So the service just has a name. The service has like a classification that is for what you saw in the beginning, like to organize like the service into tabs, right? And then you have like a checkbox if this actually can't speak, the communication protocol that we've selected, and a microservice key for authentication. So at the moment, security authentication is handled directly in the microservices or in this Drupal instance. And yeah, that's it. And if you press save, then the service is there. All right. Let's look at live demo. Live demo is dangerous. That's why the volcano is there. Yes, please.
You just showed us that you create all the microservices and content types within one Drupal instance.
Yeah.
So you can't deploy them separately, right?
But that we have made that particular instance as a separate project for the city of Reykjavik, so they can have a tool for making the easy web services, because that would, like the dog people, they don't have IT department or something like this. They don't have their own stuff. Like the large ones, like for driver's license and schools and stuff, they are separate systems. But in addition, so they will just connect themselves. But like for the easy ones, we've provided them with a system with which they very fast can like generate their own services, because they have to like within 1 year deploy 100, and like out of those, large portion will then go over this application system, that just deploys services. Right, so it's not contradicting like a microservices architecture, because there are ones that are going to be developed separately, but like we've given them a tool as well to just use this for like the simple ones, because they're all the same. Like you saw the dog stuff, so there's like tons of those, like parking permit in your street, if something like this. All right. So I have this open here. So let's take. I have here a nice one. It's now I'm logged. You see here I'm on the applications test instance, right? So first take a look what this looks like. So if I just want to buy a ticket, that just looks like this. So you see here the conditional fields. If I say 1 ticket, then it looks like this. If I have like 2 tickets, then it would show me a second field. If I have more than 2 tickets, then it would show me a different field, right? The cycle through, then you have here some more fields, Okay, so let's go back and now log into the other instance. So now I'm on the application system, on exactly this content type that's exposed as a web service for the other one. So let's do something here. Let's, for example, like drag this around here. Right, so I'm putting the list and I'm putting the regex, I'm putting this down. So I think this was here. Yeah, so I'm just like changing the order of these ones here and save it and maybe write something here for regex. So you also see the regular expression test that validates against that needs to be a number in there, at least one number. And I can just like give some here this field accepts numbers. This is for testing. Yeah. So that was just really, you just saw the communication between the two. Okay, so your question was like about form steps, how that was, right? And so there's several possibilities how you can actually make multi-step forms. Of course, you can do this with Drupal and the form API, that you actually render the first part of the form, and then you digest the data when it gets submitted, and you render the next part and you store it. That's what you can do. So in the initial implementation, we had built it like this. But what we also have, we have conditional fields. So conditional fields, like that would have gotten too complicated to actually have field conditions on the server side. I mean, imagine like you put this up and then you send this back and then you have to understand what this is. So for conditional fields, we had already chosen to make that client side, right? So like this is really just JavaScript hiding of fields. So if you look at this one here, so what really happens here is just JavaScript, that just understands, okay, that field can only be shown if some other field, has some value, right? And that wouldn't play well together with like multiple steps, because like if this is not present on the form anymore, then we would have to pass like the conditions for the fields along and stuff. So therefore, what you see down here, this is also just JavaScript based. Like just for the ease of implementation, I mean, it's also MVP style approach to the project. Really what you see here is one long form with all fields visible and all steps visible, and then JavaScript comes and makes like multi-step out of it and like hides some fields. Say again? So like the validation is server side, so that cannot be bypassed, right? So like we handle like the field validation, that is, the microservice tells like to the my pages like how to validate. Yeah? That's client side. That can be bypassed, right? So you could just like see, if you turn up JavaScript or you set some values or just change some field properties, you would see all the fields, right? But like latest, what happens is that validation on the My Pages portal fails, or if this is like really something that needs to be validated. So that's why we actually have validation also on the microservice itself. So he can send back and say, I don't like this data for whatever reason, because it could be that you have this field and that field filled out, and that conflicts with something else later in the form, and that that you cannot easily test there. Okay. So going back to here, let's see if you Okay, so we have 3 message types that actually exist for communication between the portal and the microservice. That would be listing, this is what you saw here, right? So after like submitting a form, you see like a list of your submitted forms. You can also save as drafts, so you see a list of your drafts and stuff. So there's like some list message going on, so you can say, hey, I'm this user. For your application, please give me a list of stuff that I can show. Second one is, I want to add some data. Please give me a form, with the structure and information and pre-filling and everything that you have, so that I can display that and fill it out. That would be the second one. And the third message is for the sending data to the microservice. So the most interesting one is the JSON form. That's the one I'm going to show in more detail now. And so we use there something called JSON Schema. So the image you see here is actually from a project which is called React JSON Schema. It's really nice. We were looking at it in the beginning, because what that does is it just like automatically, based on JSON Schema, generates you forms. Like if you want to understand how this works, it's really neat to see, right? So you have like the JSON Schema itself, then you have a UI schema, how to display it, and you have some schema for like what data would look like. So we're not using React there or anything. I'll just put this for illustration purposes, but we're using JSON Schema. So the one we use looks like this. So if you say, please send me some data for display, so you get a JSON object back that just looks like this. So it has in the schema all the fields that you want to display. Then it has for all the fields properties. So there you see, like, for example, what type is it? What's the name? Is it disabled? That was the checkbox, that you could set. Is it pre-filled with something? If the name was filled in, like these kind of things. Then we have dependencies for display. That's what's displayed there on the bottom. And then we have the grouping of the fields. So if you just extended the protocol a little bit, that we actually pass along the information, which fields go together in a group. Right? For example, what you see here, that's what I'm going to say in the roadmap. This group's information does not contain the name of the group. I don't know if you noticed that in the multi-step, you didn't really know what step you were on because there was no title above. That's actually currently being developed, to like add this here. This would be like a property that needs to be added to have the name of that group, so it could be properly displayed. And then you have standard widgets, like certain fields, like a text field, like a string is just displayed as a string. There are no options, but like some fields that actually have some options, it could be like a select list or radios, So then you have like configuration for UI widgets. And then you have a callback and a submit form and something for file upload. Okay, so what have we built? A little bit summing up now. So on the My Pages side, there's an authentication mechanism all the way to the right. Then we retrieve some, actually the second one from the right it is. Then we retrieve some additional user information that's then used for pre-filling. That's where these values come from to fill this out. Then we store the user data. And then we have web service and web forms to interact that are capable of error handling, multi-step, and conditional fields. And we can store forms as drafts. And the application builder, that's just, something that generates web services from content types. Conclusions. Microservice is actually quite simple. So it's like an intuitive and simple concept. You're just breaking application down into smaller parts. If you have a good way of making them communicate with one another, it's easy to implement. And it's highly scalable. Scalable because of speed of development, because you can do stuff at the same time. And it's also scalable in terms of resources. You can add services. I mean, given that like your presentation layer is lightweight, that can't be DDoSed or anything. Like not much happens there. You can actually like you have by nature you have a distributed system. And it's also secure because actually the citizens or like the people interacting with it, they don't even interact with the service themselves. They interact with the interface. Roadmap, like the display of forms, actually that's the thing that's most challenging because like, I don't know if you worked in government and like these complicated forms, they like, if you see these typical PDFs that you have to fill out, they're just huge, and there's all kinds of if this and that and stuff, and like actually making them have a service that displays it just in one column with like all below each other, that's just hard for them to just, they have had their beautiful PDFs for many years, so that's, that's why we have multi-step and conditional fields and things. But what they really want is like, for example, like 2 columns and maybe rearranging this and doing like more stuff there. So I think there's going to be a lot happening, and that's actually, if you want like so from development aspect, that's actually challenging to first invent how you transport this type of information, and which is generic, and make it render and look good. So that's actually challenging, but there's going to be a lot of stuff. Then what we also need to add at some point is some interaction between the services, because if you, for example, change your address, or you just, sign your child up for school, depending on the school which you signed up to, like the daycare services change. So you need to broadcast the result for the school admission to other services, right? So that's something that's actually a little bit dangerous, because then you move towards like service-oriented architecture kind of a thing, where like there's heavy stuff going on, where web services talk, Yes?
Do you plan on having these services interact directly with each other?
No. No, so that will be like, so it's not decided yet how that will work, like what we've proposed is some kind of a broadcasting mechanism that a service can actually broadcast to the other services, and to let them digest the information, do something with it if they want, right? So would be the use case, you register your child to that school, and then like to all the services, the daycare service that's broadcasted as your child was, registered to the school, and then the daycare service can say, okay, you will have to book this or that daycare, but you can't book the other ones that are too far away anymore, for example. And then if at some point we most likely need to add some kind of message broking system, that sits between the microservice and the presentation layer to, handle authentication there and handle message queuing and these kind of things. That was it so far. Q&A, yes. So two ways what you can do. So it is just one big form. So when you click on next step, like it's just something's just hidden, so it's still there. So there's nothing really saved. But if you go away, close the browser, it's gone. But there's a button. I don't know if you saw it. I'll show it here. For the reason what I said earlier, because we couldn't figure out a simple way to make it play well with conditional fields, right? Because but usually you would be something like this: are you male or are you female? And then you say male in the beginning, and then on step number 5, like you have to say your T-shirt size, and then like you have to pass this all along. So that's complicated. That's why maybe we will add this later. But for the moment, like what we have, like so we accept. So you can save something as draft. So what I'm just going to save this as a draft, and then I can actually, I have here my listing, and here's my draft. That's just the draft that I just saved. No, that's only in the front end, right? So like, the logic is, like the data, when it's submitted, it's completely validated, because we only want to send data to the web service that we think, like based on the information that the web service gave us, is valid. Files are uploaded, files are uploaded to the system here, they're kept, and upon submission to the web services, they're submitted separately. We're using JSON API like on the application side, and then we submit a file, and then we create an entity and reference that file. Yeah?
Have you already developed a more complex service that you didn't do with the service builder, but created a totally isolated microservice?
That's at the moment. There's one. The first one of the services is currently being developed.
Yeah, but those are being adapted for the existing service.
No, they will do this themselves. So like this, like what I showed you here, like with the adapters, is, this one here, this is the real graphic from the real offer we made, and like we had to provide them with a solution, right? So if the guys down there say, no, we don't want to implement this, then we said, okay, then we'll write an adapter, right? And then say, oh no, before they start making an adapter, we rather want to do it ourselves, right? But in the original offer, so what's happening here, this one's implementing without adapter in between. I'm not so sure if I understand.
In a microservice architecture, you take a part of the system
Yeah.
that performs a specific functionality.
Yeah.
You separate that out to a separate service.
Yeah.
Have you
Well, for us, like the service components are like web services by different departments. That's for us, Mike. So we know it's not services in the sense of services from a system, you know, that where we have separated within our software stuff. That's not what we're doing here. So what we're doing is we're abstracting physically different services, like dog registration, childcare, like these kind of things. Right, so like what we are in charge of at the moment, you know, I mean, this is early stage, so it's just going to go live now in the first version with like some stuff, right? So we're in charge of making the simple services, but very many of them in a very fast way. And we are at the moment supporting like one complex service to connect. And if that goes well and that goes out, then the other ones are going to come. Hang on, so let's make this big again, so I can go down here. Oh, yes? So the interface layer is really stupid. He doesn't have any functionality. At the moment, he only received this JSON form what I showed, and he generates like a form, you know, with like some stuff. And if you click Save as Draft, he saves this, and when you say Submit, then he sends it. Nothing. Nope. No. Yes. 100%. Like it's totally slim. It has zero functionality. The only thing when you save as draft, we take the form, we serialize it as a JSON and keep it, you know, so that we can pre-fill it easily when the draft is called. So it's really, really slim. That's why you saw like when I changed something, it was just there, you know, because there's nothing happening on that side. Yeah. So like the fields were fully defined. They're fully defined here. This is just what this is. So like this is a generic thing, you know, so it's always the same. Like there's any services out there, and he can send whatever, you know. So here you have like this, that is actually from the dog service, I think. You know, later we played with the ticket service. So for the ticket service, there's just a field called name on ticket, second name on second ticket, and so on, right? And it sends all the information like that the display layer needs for rendering. You know, sends this all along, then gets rendered. Like display knows nothing, has zero intelligence about what's happening there. He just displays what he gets, collects it, validates it, and sends it back. You may, when one talks to the other, you mean? Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That's on the roadmap. That's for the broadcasting. So it can happen that like one service actually needs to tell its status to another service. So we need that is on the roadmap. Yeah. Actually, let's take this one instead, because that's actually more simplified. This one, that is just, I just want to show, I took this one in not for confusing you. I made it for, yeah. Yeah. No, they're all completely different. They have all been developed, so this is like how this is like a typical government organization. They're completely isolated, they have their own departments, and they have just invented their websites and like their stuff, and they want to be, you know, they all want to develop it themselves, right? That's why you have like this crazy landscape, right? And that's why we often say, okay, like we can implement, we can even connect to these servers if they don't want to do it themselves, but they're going to do it themselves. More? Okay, so then I can say thank you, and I really hope that we'll see you in Drupal Europe. So we're heavily involved in the organization. You know, it's going to be a great event, like lots of submissions there, lots of great speakers. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it'll be cool to see you there.